crisp October air bit at my cheeks as we piled out of Jessica's beat-up Honda Civic. The Blackwood Manor loomed ahead, a decaying Victorian monstrosity shrouded in a perpetual twilight. Halloween was our excuse, a chance to finally explore the town's most notorious landmark. Blackwood Manor had been abandoned since Old Man Blackwood, a rumored recluse and rumored cult leader, vanished without a trace 20 years ago. Whispers of strange rituals and unsettling disappearances clung to the house like cobwebs. Of course, most of us dismissed them as spooky town legends. Anyone else getting some serious Amityville vibes? Jessica joked, her voice strained as she surveyed the peeling paint and boarded up windows. We were a motley crew. Myself, Ethan, the cautious one, Jessica, the fearless leader, Matt, the resident skeptic, and Chloe, the one who brought a Ouija board, just in case. A thrill of anticipation, tinged with nervousness, crackled through the group. The rusty gate groaned open with a protest, sending a flock of crows cawing into the twilight sky. The overgrown lawn crunched beneath our feet as we approached the front door, its weathered wood adorned with a tarnished brass knocker shaped like a gargoyle. Chicken out now? Matt sneered, nudging me with his elbow. Just taking it all in, I mumbled, feeling a sudden unease settle in my stomach. The air around the house felt heavy, stagnant. Jessica, with a flourish, raised the knocker and gave it a resounding rap. Silence. We waited, anticipation morphing into disappointment. Just when we were about to turn back, a creaking sound echoed from within. The heavy oak door swung open a sliver, revealing a face obscured by shadow. A woman, her eyes glinting like polished obsidian, peered out. "You shouldn't be here," she rasped, her voice like dry leaves rustling in the wind. "We're just here for a Halloween thrill," Jessica said, a nervous smile plastered on her face. "Is this the Blackwood Manor?" The woman remained silent for a moment, her gaze sweeping over each of us. Then, with a sigh, she stepped aside. "Come in, then. But don't say I didn't warn you." We exchanged nervous glances but followed the woman inside. The air grew colder, the darkness thicker as we entered the mansion. Dust motes danced in the faint moonlight filtering through grimy windows. Cobwebs draped from the high ceilings, and the only sound was the creak of our footsteps on the aged floorboards. The woman led us through a maze of dusty hallways lined with faded portraits of stern-faced Blackwoods staring down at us, with unnerving intensity. Finally, she stopped before a set of double doors adorned with strange symbols. They seemed to writhe and pulsate in the dim light, sending shivers down my spine. "This is the heart of the house," the woman said, her voice barely a whisper. "The Blackwood study. Enter at your own peril." Before we could react, she pushed the doors open, revealing a dimly lit room filled with bookshelves overflowing with ancient tomes bound in dark leather. In the center of the room, a large obsidian table gleamed with an otherworldly sheen. Suddenly, a chill wind swept through the room, extinguishing the flickering candlelight. We were plunged into darkness, the only sound our ragged breaths and the frantic pounding of our hearts. "Chloe, the Ouija board," Jessica hissed. In the darkness, I fumbled for Chloe's hand, feeling a surge of relief when I found it. Then, a faint blue light emanated from the floor. Chloe had lit the planchette on her phone. As we gathered around the makeshift Ouija board on the floor, a sense of dread settled over us. Matt, the ever-skeptical one, was now pale and silent. Jessica, her voice barely a tremor, placed her finger on the planchette. "Is anyone here?" The planchette began to move slowly across the board, spelling out a chilling message. "We have been waiting." A strangled gasp escaped Chloe's lips. The air grew colder, the darkness seemed to press in on us. Panic surged through me, the urge to flee overwhelming. Just then, A booming voice resonated through the room, vibrating the very walls. "Welcome, children. You have come to the right place." The blue light from Chloe's phone flickered, revealing a figure standing by the window. Tall and cloaked, its face obscured by shadows, it exuded an aura of power and menace. "Who are you?" Jessica stammered, her voice barely a whisper above the pounding of my heart. The figure remained silent, its shadowed form an imposing presence in the dimly lit room. The blue light from Chloe's phone cast an eerie glow, dancing across the symbols etched on the walls, making them seem to writhe and pulsate even more. The silence stretched on, thick and suffocating. Then, the figure spoke, its voice a deep rumble that seemed to emanate from the very floorboards. "We are the Watchers," it rasped, the words echoing through the chamber. "We have guarded these halls for generations, waiting for those worthy to join us." A cold sweat prickled my skin. Worthy? Join them? This wasn't a Halloween thrill anymore. It was a nightmare unfolding before our very eyes. We just wanted to explore," Matt stammered, his voice cracking with fear. "We didn't know about any Watchers." The figure chuckled, a sound like dry leaves rustling in a crypt. "Curiosity is a path, but not always a safe one. Now, a choice lies before you." It extended a skeletal hand, its long, bony fingers reaching towards them. "Join us, and become part of something greater. Or..." It trailed off, but the unspoken threat hung heavy in the air. Terror choked my voice. This wasn't a spooky legend. These were real people, or maybe not people at all, dedicated to some sinister purpose. Escape. That was the only thought that hammered in my head. But how? The windows were boarded up, and the heavy oak door that led us in seemed miles away. A flicker of movement caught my eye. A hidden passageway, barely perceptible in the gloom, opened in the corner of the room. It was narrow and dark, but it offered a chance, however slim. "This way," I hissed, grabbing Chloe's hand and pulling her towards the passage. Jessica and Matt hesitated, their faces etched with fear and uncertainty. "What about the planchette?" Chloe cried, momentarily resisting me. "Leave it," I yelled, urgency lacing my voice. "We can't stay here." With a final glance at the looming figure and its outstretched hand, we plunged into the darkness of the passage. The damp, musty air scraped at my lungs as we crawled on our hands and knees, the floorboards groaning under our weight. The sound of our ragged breaths and frantic heartbeats filled the oppressive silence. Behind us, we heard the booming voice of the figure echo down the hall. "Foolish children, you cannot escape your destiny." The passage twisted and turned, a seemingly endless labyrinth leading us deeper into the bowels of the Blackwood Manor. We didn't know where it led, but anywhere was better than facing the terrifying Watchers and their sinister offer. The only light came from Chloe's phone, casting an eerie glow on the rough-hewn walls and the dust motes swirling in the stale air. Would we ever find an escape? Or were we doomed to wander this dark passage forever, the chilling words of the Watchers echoing in our ears? The answer, shrouded in darkness, remained uncertain as we continued our desperate crawl, leaving the horrors of the Blackwood study and the secrets it held behind. The cramped passage seemed to stretch on forever. My lungs burned, my muscles screamed in protest, and my eyes strained in the perpetual twilight cast by Chloe's phone. Every creak, every groan of the ancient house amplified my fear. Had we made the right choice by fleeing? Was the passage itself some elaborate trap? Suddenly, Chloe stumbled, dropping the phone with a gasp. The blue light flickered and died, plunging us into complete darkness. Panic surged through me. Without the faint light, Navigating the passage was impossible. Chloe, where is it? I fumbled blindly, desperately searching for her hand. Here. She whimpered, her voice trembling. But my phone, the screen cracked. It won't turn on. Despair threatened to engulf me. Blind and lost, we were trapped in a living tomb. But giving up wasn't an option. We had to keep moving, find an exit, anything. I fumbled in my pocket and pulled out a lighter I always carried, a habit from countless camping trips with my dad. With a flick of the wheel, a tiny flame sputtered to life, casting dancing shadows on the rough-hewn walls. The meager light wasn't much, but it was enough to see the path ahead. We pressed on, the silence broken only by the rasp of our breaths and the occasional drip of water from somewhere above. As we walked, a faint, metallic scent filled the air, growing stronger with every step. Finally, the passage opened into a small, circular chamber. The flickering lighter flame revealed stacks of metal crates labeled with strange symbols. The metallic scent intensified, now accompanied by a low hum that vibrated through the floorboards. A wave of nausea washed over me. This wasn't just some dusty old house. This place was, what? A laboratory of some kind? A prison for something unspeakable? Suddenly, a loud screech echoed through the chamber, followed by a series of metallic clangs. Terror froze me in place. Then, a guttural roar filled the air, sending shivers down my spine. Something large, something monstrous, was on the other side of the metal crates. We have to get out of here, Chloe hissed, grabbing my arm and pulling me towards a narrow tunnel at the back of the chamber. The tunnel was even smaller than the passage, barely wide enough for us to squeeze through. We scrambled in, pushing ourselves forward with all our might. The roars and clangs grew louder, closer. The creature was breaking through whatever held it back. Was this the price we paid for escaping the Watchers? The tunnel twisted and turned, a claustrophobic nightmare. My arms burned, scraped raw by the rough stone walls. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, the tunnel opened onto a hidden stairwell. We stumbled up the rickety stairs, bursting out onto a dusty balcony overlooking the grand foyer of the Blackwood Manor. Below, the moonlight streamed through the grimy windows, illuminating the figure of the cloaked Watcher standing amidst a circle of chanting figures with their eyes closed. Panic threatened to paralyze me again. We were trapped, exposed. But then, a glint of metal caught my eye. A rusty fire escape snaked down the side of the mansion. There was a chance, however slim. This way, I yelled, pointing to the fire escape. Without waiting for a response, I clambered over the railing and started my descent. Chloe was close behind, her breath ragged in my ear. The metal groaned under our weight, threatening to give way with every step. Below, the chanting figures and the looming Watchers seemed oblivious to our escape. Focused on reaching the ground, I barely noticed the booming voice echoing through the foyer. Foolish children. You cannot escape the coming. Finally, our feet touched the cold, damp earth. We sprinted through the overgrown garden, the chanting fading behind us. Reaching the road, we didn't stop until we were a safe distance away, lungs burning, legs throbbing. We collapsed onto the grassy verge, gasping for air, the horrors of the Blackwood Manor replaying in our minds. The chanting, the creature in the chamber, the chilling words of the Watcher. It wasn't a Halloween prank. It was something far more sinister. As dawn painted the sky with streaks of pink and orange, we knew our lives were irrevocably changed. We had stumbled upon a secret, a cult with plans that sent shivers down my spine. We didn't understand it all, but one thing was clear: we couldn't ignore it. looking at Chloe, her eyes wide with a mix of terror and defiance. I knew silence wouldn't be an option. We couldn't simply walk away after witnessing such a disturbing ritual. But what could we do? We were just teenagers, with nothing but a flickering lighter and a terrifying experience as our evidence. "We need to tell someone," Chloe finally croaked, her voice raw. "The police, anyone. This cult, whatever they're planning, it's dangerous." I nodded, a knot of fear tightening in my stomach. The authorities might scoff at our story, dismissing it as a Halloween night prank fueled by overactive imaginations. But the memory of the guttural roars, the chanting, and the Watcher's chilling words felt too real to ignore. "We need proof," I said, my voice barely above a whisper. "Perhaps a photo, a recording, anything to bolster our claims." The thought of returning to the Blackwood Manor sent shivers down my spine. But the alternative, letting this evil fester in the shadows, was even more terrifying. "There's got to be another way," Chloe pleaded, reading the fear in my eyes. "Maybe we can find something online, some connection to the Blackwood cult or the symbols we saw." Hope flickered in my chest. Technology could be our weapon. We could scour the internet, delve into the town's forgotten history, anything to unearth information about the Watchers and their plans. The next day, back in the safety of my room, we started our research. We searched forgotten town forums, obscure history blogs, and even dabbled in fringe conspiracy websites. Days blurred into nights as we chased every lead, no matter how outlandish. Then, one night, a single sentence on a dusty forum dedicated to unsolved mysteries caught our eye. The Blackwood family, rumored to be involved in occult practices, vanished without a trace 20 years ago. A click on a linked news article revealed a grainy photo. The faces staring back from the faded image were identical to the chanting figures we witnessed. The article mentioned a local historian, Ms. Evelyn Thorne, who supposedly possessed a collection of Blackwood family artifacts and documents. Desperate for answers, we decided to visit her, hoping she could shed some light on the cult's history and intentions. Ms. Thorne, a frail woman with eyes that held the wisdom of decades, listened intently to our account. When we finished, a heavy silence settled in the room. Then, she spoke, her voice laced with a chilling certainty. "The Watchers," she said, "have been waiting for the convergence, a celestial event aligning the stars for their dark ritual. They believe it will allow them to breach the veil between worlds and unleash an unspeakable horror." Our blood ran cold. This wasn't just some harmless cult. Their plan threatened the very fabric of reality. Fear battled with a newfound sense of purpose. We couldn't let them succeed. Ms. Thorne revealed that the key to stopping the ritual might lie within the Blackwood Manor itself, hidden within an ancient text known as the Book of Unbinding. But retrieving it would be a perilous task. With a newfound resolve, we knew what we had to do. Equipped with borrowed research materials and Ms. Thorne's cryptic instructions, we prepared for a second, more daring, trip to the Blackwood Manor. This time, we weren't just escaping. We were going in to fight a terrifying evil,